gentlemen, we got JR Takes first ever video episode coming at you guys. Just, 10 days before the draft? And got a lot of stuff going on in the Seattle sports world. We've got the Seattle Kraken making their first playoff run, and we've also got the Mariners back at 500. And quite a bit of draft capital on the horizon for the Seahawks. And
biggest draft in I think the whole time I've been a Seahawks fan. So since 2005, I'd say this is like the biggest opportunity we've ever had with the draft.
Yeah, and real quick before we get into it, obviously we had a couple technical difficulties last week. We planned a little bit better now, and we've got things up and running, so should be a lot of fun. We expect to be doing this
Going
video
forward.
Episode from here on out.
Hopefully this one works better, but fingers crossed.
So we're pretty much going to be going over, like we just mentioned, Kraken, Mariners, and then we'll round things out. Ryan and I did a first round mock draft of the all 31 NFL teams because the Dolphins are stupid.
They blew
it.
Wasn't that over Tom Brady too or something?
Yeah, it's like the Dolphins should be embarrassed.
Imagine what that first round pick could do for them now that they Tua's good. And
Brady beat the Dolphins for 2 decades, and then he got them a draft pick lost. I don't know. It's just I'm happy I'm not a Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll just get right into this. So the Kraken. Not going to lie, I've been quite the bandwagon fan over this past month. I did watch like 5 minutes of a game 2 days ago.
No, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, I probably over the past 2-3 weeks, I've been willing to actually flip the game on more frequently than not because I know, okay, we were probably a game away from clinching or around that time period when I started to invest a little bit more time in it. And it's just kind of interesting because we never had hockey growing up. Yeah. So it's like learning a brand new sport. And I mean, it's fun. I
feel like in Seattle for hockey for a long time, it was like you kind of rooted for the Canucks a little bit because Vancouver's close and their colors were like almost sea hockey, Seattle-y.
Yeah.
But that was the only reason really was just proximity and familiarity, I guess.
Right. And but I'm really looking forward to the playoffs. It's a 7-game series, so I mean that should be fun. 7-game series each round gives us a lot of hockey to watch, keeps us entertained. I don't know if our chances are so good in advancing to the next round because we're playing the Colorado Avalanche, who won the Stanley Cup last year.
Oh shit!
And they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, who was going on a 3-peat. So I don't really know if that is exactly the best hand to be dealt in your first ever playoff appearance. But we have a winning record against them in the regular season, so. We'll see.
And I mean, I think Seattle as a city in sports has a pretty decent track record against the defending champs in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
The Saints. Mm-hmm. So you never know.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Fingers crossed there.
And man, this is the first time that 3 major Seattle sports teams have all made the playoffs within 1 calendar year,
Isn't that crazy just because, we didn't have a hockey team. So that's pretty cool. And then the Mariners were the longest playoff drought in American sports history.
Yeah.
So
and rewind a year ago, we had just traded Russell Wilson, let Bobby Wagner go, and it looked like that.
We were in rebuild mode.
And I was hearing that we were going to get sold and maybe moved.
Yeah. So you fast forward the clock a whole 12 months, and it's like we've never been in a better position than we are right now. As a Seattle sports fan or as a Seattle sports analysts, I'll call us.
Hey, we've kept this going for more than a year now. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. Anyway, so Kraken, we're really hoping first playoff games tomorrow night. I unfortunately will not be watching it because I'm going to the Muse concert. We talked about that.
That's going to be fun.
Looking forward to that. But yeah, moving on to the Seattle Mariners. They're currently playing right now. I think they're losing 3-1. But
are they back to 500 now? 8-8?
8-8, yes.
Nice. It's crazy that used to be a whole football season, and we're like 2.5 weeks into the baseball season.
Yeah, well, obviously pretty small sample size. You had a lot of people, Mariner fans, acting like the sky was falling, which honestly,
I saw a lot of melodrama on Twitter about it.
I gotta say, I've experienced some tough times as a fan, and I was not worried at all. Compared to last year, we literally had to win. We had to win 14 games in a row to be relevant again. And if we can do that, I think we were 9 games over 500 by the end of that stretch, but it was still we had to do something so unreasonable to make it to 90 games that we accomplished that. So after seeing that, I'm just okay, I'm just going to let this team do its thing. I'm going to just not bitch about it. Kind of like the Seahawks last year.
Yeah.
When we going into that season, it was I don't know. I mean, we traded everything away, and now we have Geno Smith leading the squad. But I mean, I'm satisfied with the result. So I'm just gonna learn. I've learned to be patient. If anything, 2022 has taught me as a Seattle sports fan.
Yeah, and if there's anything I've learned in the last year paying more attention to baseball is it's so much more of a stretch, and you really can't be as reactive to what you're seeing as you can. Because in a football game, every play, every snap, every game matters so much because there's so few of them.
Right.
But in baseball, it seems like it's really more just about building that consistency. And, as long as the process is good in how your team is performing, it's even if you drop a few games here and there, it's not the end of the world.
It really is looking at things big picture wise as opposed to the small sample size like a football game gives you.
Yeah.
You only have 16, 17, well, now 17 tries per season, but with baseball, it's that times 10.
Yeah.
And so really it's just a lot more of a grind. You have to be mentally... You can't let the failures get to you, and that's why a lot of people don't pan out. Is because that's, believe it or not, a really hard thing to do.
I bet.
Which leads me to a guy I wanted to talk about this week, JR Kelenic. His first 2 seasons up with the team struggled mightily. There were many moments where I was not really sure if he was going to pan out. We traded Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz, who is currently one of the best closers in the game. We got Kelenic and a couple other pieces in that deal, but Kelenic was supposed to be the piece. And, I got to admit, I wasn't really sure going into this year if he was going to figure it out. And again, we're only 16 games in, but the guy is playing out of his mind. Slugging percentage, slugging second in the league, and OPS on base plus slugging. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
No, I don't know what that means.
So slugging is first, second, third, and home runs all added up, divided by your at bats.
Oh, okay.
So that's slugging. So it's basically taking into account all of your extra base hits, and then divides it by your at-bats. And it comes up with a number. And right now, JR Kelenic is the second best in baseball.
Damn.
Which is insane because he got sent down to AAA so many times because of, getting called up, and then he he went 0 for 30 something.
Jeez.
And then gets sent back down. So it's just really awesome. It reminded me a lot of Geno Smith. I know he's a lot earlier in his career, whereas Geno took him a full decade to finally figure out, and get comfortable in his shoes. But it's really awesome seeing how horribly Kelenic struggled his first 2 years, and now he's our best player.
Yeah, isn't that insane? Because everyone's talking about Julio all offseason, and now he's still a great player and doing fine, but right now Kelenic is the superstar of the team. Well,
and it's just so funny because I was looking at all the stats across the board this morning, and Julio I think is 16th highest in the league in strikeouts this year.
Ooh.
But again, only 16 games in, but it's you look at Kelenic, OPS, which is on base percentage. So it's basically slugging plus your walks, and you're reached on errors.
Okay.
So it's just getting on base at all. Does no explanation. So on base plus slugging and his is the 4th highest in the league, which is crazy because his strikeout rate was insane last year, like high.
Yeah.
So it's good that he's brought that down and, come back to, winning the fans over.
Yeah.
But, super excited. Castillo had a perfect game going into the 7th on Sunday. And then, of course, Kelenic being the only guy to drive in the run and make the game-winning catch. It's a great thing to see. It brings a lot of promise to our team and the potential with all this young talent around us. And
yeah, I mean, I'm not the big baseball guy knowledge-wise, but it seems like the Mariners have really just trusted this rebuild with a young core, and it's finally starting to pay dividends. Mm-hmm. And now they have a playoff appearance to build off of, and the Astros are playing like shit right now. It's early. Again, it's early, but it looks like, at least, this snapshot taken right now, it looks like the AL West is within reason this year. It's within play. So
you have the teams like the Angels, they kind of scare me. Teams like the Rangers, they made a lot of offseason acquisitions, and of course the Angels have Shohei and Mikey T.
I'm so fucking sick of him.
But I just feel like the Angels are going to angel, and Trout's going to hurt his lower back, and no one is going to do anything besides Shohei Ohtani on that roster. And so they'll probably win 75 games and be out of the playoff race by, I don't know, early August.
You love to see it.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all I had on the baseball conversation. We can go ahead and move on to the main event, Ryan and I's first round mock draft, in which we took command of basically we were pretty much just...
We were the GM
GMs.
of all. I mean, technically, it's not all 32 teams because the Dolphins are gone. A couple teams are in there twice, but you get the idea.
Yeah, and one thing I just have to admit before we get going on this, I tried to go in not biased, not Seahawks biased, but the trade I made at pick 20, you'll understand why my mock draft is probably not going to happen. But, the trades, I will say, the simulator I used, it was not like I could just trade whoever I wanted. I had to work for trades.
Yeah.
So
they at least try to make it realistic.
Yeah.
The one I didn't do any trades just because, obviously they're going to happen, but it's so hard to predict where they're going to happen.
It's easier to not, especially if, I don't know, if I kind of made my trades taking into account if we're going to be doing a round 2 and 3 later on. I want to go off of decisions I made in the first round. So that's why I only made 2 trades, because I don't want to get it all complicated and all over the place.
Yeah.
But anyway, do you want to just jump right in and give us your first round selection, or how do you want to do this exactly?
Let's just go ahead and get started. So with the first pick with the Carolina Panthers, this just, as we're getting closer and closer to the draft, it just seems a little more obvious to me that this is going to happen, that Bryce Young is going to go number 1 overall, which is wild because, the speculation and conversation surrounding that this whole time has been how he's just so tiny and how they, pumped him full of Wendy's Frosties at the combine so he could weigh over 200 pounds kind of thing. Whatever they had to do to make it work. But, when it comes down to it, he's just simply the best quarterback in this class. Were he my size, there'd be no question about him being the number 1 overall pick.
I keep hearing all these rumors about, or not rumors, but objectively true statements about how he excelled the most from the reaction tests. That they basically what it is they make you identify images and you try to do it as fast as you can. Apparently, Joe Burrow was really good at it. Mahomes, now Bryce Young, and Bryce Young. I believe I saw it in an interview with Steve Smith on the Carolina Panthers, because they were talking about, speculation of Bryce or CJ. And
I do think it's close for the record, but
the physical gifts are there for CJ and not as much for Bryce. Apparently the rumor mill is that Bryce is the decision maker of the two.
Well, and also I just saw today that Bryce Young canceled all his remaining pre-draft visits, so he's going 1 or 2. Like there's just no other option for him.
Right.
Like, he's going top 2, and I just think he's going to be number 1. Who do you have going number 1?
I got CJ Stroud.
Okay.
And that's just because, again, maybe this might be Mel Kiper's fault a little bit, but ever since I heard about Frank Reich liking bigger quarterbacks, I don't know. He was the coach at Indy for a couple of years and never got like his prodigy, his quarterback that he got to draft. It was always like Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz. I don't even remember Jacoby Brissett. Like,
yeah, he's a big guy too.
But point being is it was just like plug in this quarterback here, and then following season plug in insert here, and like you know what I mean. So it's just like I just. That logic makes sense to me. CJ Stroud going number 1 to Carolina.
It makes perfect sense to me too, and I could totally see it happening. The reason why I did this mock is it seems to me like this might happen, and B, I also think it might throw some chaos into the top 5, as you'll see here as we get going.
Yeah, I'm surprised by your picks, but we'll get into that in a second.
I've done so many of these things, and it's always 1 or 2, Bryce and CJ and Bryce. I'm just like, fuck it. Like, let's make this a little more interesting.
Right.
So I have the Houston Texans, and I know this is probably one of the bigger surprising picks I had in my mock. I have them taking Will Anderson at number 2. And the reason I kind of did this as what would I do if I were this team? That was sort of my mentality going into it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it makes all the sense in the world for them to just take whoever their favorite quarterback is at this point. But from another standpoint, that team is just fucking bad, and they're going to be bad this year too. So why not take, the safest, I know this is what people said about Aaron Curry, but the safest defensive pick in the draft in Will Anderson, and just, D'Amico Ryans is a defensive coordinator by upbringing, their new head coach, and he's probably, he's trying to build a culture there in Houston, and that's an organization that's been beyond a dumpster fire for years now. So they really started from scratch. They had a pretty good start to it last year with getting Derek Stingley Jr. More on that later. Did they have another first-round pick last year? I can't remember.
I want to say yes.
I can't remember who their other pick was, but there's some pieces there in Houston. They're just still such a bad team. And I look at it, they already got a quarterback on a rookie contract who's played.
Davis.
He's not good, but he showed that he was not going to like flat out lose you games. He's just he's a game manager, Mm-hmm. I say roll with Davis for another year, go 5-13 or 5-12 or 4-13. And dude, then next year, Caleb Williams or Drake May, who a lot of people, I feel like we say this every fucking year, but Caleb Williams would be the number 1 pick in this draft for sure. And if they have to trade up for him next year to get him, like just do it. And I think they're in a good spot to do that. So that was kind of my logic in doing this is just, I know it sucks for fans of the Houston Texans now, but if you just punt on 2023 and just try to build the pieces that you have, because they don't have a lot of them, but just get these young guys, this young core, you're building some experience, and get the QB next year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. My pick would say otherwise, but
you got Bryce probably.
But all of that makes sense. That being said, I just went with Bryce because if he somehow fell to Seattle at number 5, that would be my favorite. That would be my happiest choice if we somehow wound up with Bryce Young.
That would be just insane.
But that's just not going to happen. He's going to go to Houston at number 2 because
he'd have to go out. He'd have to get past the Colts too. It's
and that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Or unless for some reason I could see a dream scenario where he doesn't get taken 1 or 2, and then we trade up to get him at 3. But I don't know why Arizona would trade. So
yeah,
I don't see that happening. I see Bryce going number 3, and then we'll just do like a little snake thing. So and then number 3, I have Will Anderson going to the Cardinals. Just kind of the Cardinals, they don't want that pick. I keep hearing all this and that and the other about them trying to trade that pick. And I think being in a situation like that where you're like, oh, we don't want this pick, but we know we're kind of the ball's not in our court because we're trying to pawn it off to someone. So it's like asking for all this capital for the 3rd pick. It's like, good luck. And so I kind of feel like the pick to correlate a situation like that is a guy with a high floor, and that is Will Anderson.
Yeah, I think, Will Anderson, to me, like, I think he's immediately going to be a productive player, probably a Pro Bowl player eventually. But I think he's going to be kind of a test of, like, how elite can a player in today's NFL be as a pass rusher without having top-tier athletic measurables? Because he has good... Like, he's very solid across the board athletically and super productive, but you just got to wonder, when everyone's bigger, stronger, faster, and smarter, like, is it going to translate? We'll see. I think it will, but that's how kind of my take on Will Anderson. So I really kind of just tried to spice it up a little bit this draft. Yeah. I have Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois going number 3 overall to the Cardinals. I just think that there's a lot more buzz about this guy than maybe the media is letting on. I know we, as the Seahawks, are really interested in him as well. I mean, we're flying him out for a top 30 visit this week, I believe.
That's kind of surprising because he's only, 5'11"?
Dude, but have you watched his tape?
No, I have not.
He's like 5'11", 5'10", not long arms, and he's 180 pounds. He fucking hits like Cam Chancellor. It makes no sense. Like, he rocks people. He totally would have fit in with like the Legion of Boom guys. And he's a guy, like, if we ended up picking him at number 5, I don't think that's being talked about much at all, but like, I wouldn't be mad. I think it would be really exciting. But the thing is, I think the Cardinals here, it's kind of like trade down, take Tyree Wilson or take Jalen Carter. I think the Cardinals are in a similar situation to the Texans where they got a new head coach and they're trying to build a new culture. I think they're going to look at the off the field concerns with Jalen Carter and be terrified by him. Just given that, I mean, you think Gannon, the guy that posted that, "What's up, it's your coach, let's have some fun," you think he's going to get the best out of Jalen Carter? Yeah, no.
And just going off of that, look at the dumpster fire that they have found themselves in. Do you think they want to bring Jalen Carter into that?
No.
Why would they do that? That makes no sense.
A lot has come out about how their ownership and their facility is like dog shit compared to the rest of the league.
And they make their players pay for their meals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not the environment you want someone with a little bit of maturity issues going into. And
exactly.
I mean, maybe they'll be so dumb that they do blow this for everyone and take him. But I think, it's a franchise that hasn't been afraid to take a corner super high in the past in Patrick Peterson. I just think, there's more love for this Devin Witherspoon guy in the NFL GM world than maybe we're hearing about. And then for the number 4 overall pick, we have a situation where the Colts are just elated at how this has worked out because they're going to take CJ Stroud at number 4. And to me, if I were a GM of the Colts and this situation happened, it'd be the easiest decision you could think of because they've been probably thinking this whole time it's going to be Levis or Richardson that they got to choose between, both of which have tremendous athletic upside, but raw. CJ will beat out Gardner Minshew. I like Minshew, but CJ's a much better player than him. So yeah, that's my top 4 so far.
Yeah, I like that CJ Stroud pick. I could see this scenario honestly happening because I had a lot of mocks where the Cardinals took a corner. Christian Gonzalez was a really popular AI pick there.
Yeah, I thought about Tyree Wilson at 3-2, but to me that's such a reach, and B, the Cardinals run a 3-4 defense as well, and I feel like to me Tyree Wilson is a pure 4-3 defensive end. Maybe especially
his size doesn't really go along with the 3-4.
Well, it's the exact reason why we let Carlos Dunlap go, because he's basically the same size as Tyree. Like they have very similar builds and like weight and everything. So, anyways,
Yeah, at number 4, I got the freak of nature at quarterback going to the Colts.
Nice.
Anthony Richardson, he's just going to be available, and the Colts are going to be salivating over it, and they're going to take him.
That would actually be fun because theoretically you'd think that Minshew's starting off at the beginning of the season.
As much as I would like to see Minshew get his shot as a start because he deserves it, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he will win the job against Anthony Richardson. Like, I don't think he will, but maybe Anthony Richardson isn't as ready as, we expect him to be. I think kind of like Malik Willis, sort of.
I remember Mahomes, he sat his rookie year behind Alex Smith. I think that's at the least what you need with Richardson, because like the guy played it's like Trey Lance. He played one season of college football. That's it. Like and you could even make the argument that you do need to play him right away because like he needs to learn how to fucking play football. Yeah. So I could kind of see either side of it, but I just feel like if you throw Richardson out week 1, like you could really hurt his confidence as he's not even 21 yet. He's super young. So he'll be 21 like before the season starts. But anyways.
Yeah. And then number 5, I got I really hope this happens. I have us taking Jalen Carter, and main reason, I don't really if the draft is a gamble, everything's a crapshoot, and you're putting all your eggs in a basket of, pros and cons for this guy, and he checks these boxes, but these are a little bit of a concern. Wouldn't you want the player that has the highest ceiling? Like, yeah, I understand that the character concerns are there, but hello, have you seen what our culture is and how it has been built over the past decade?
And have you seen Jalen Carter's tape? It's silly. What he just throws Division I athletes in the SEC on the ground like they're us. Well,
and
he's a monster.
The more and more I've been thinking about like the whole him showing up to his pro day 9 pounds overweight. I don't really think that's that concerning given his personal situation he was in.
And also his build, he's giant. Like he could probably gain 9 pounds in a weekend.
Yeah, and exactly. a bigger guys like him, gain weight and shed. Like it comes it comes and goes. It's not like you and me where we're just a different body type than that. So it just doesn't work like that. But yeah, Carter, I'm going him at number 5, and I'm not losing sleep over it.
Well, that's a really controversial take there, Jonah, and I completely agree with you. I'm just, not only do I want this to happen, but I'm just convinced it's going to happen at this point. I think the only way it doesn't happen is if the Cardinals fuck it up for us, or somehow, I don't know, the Texans take him at 2, which that would be shocking. But
the reason why I just think that this is going to happen too is because for weeks there we were just no one was talking about Carter to the Seahawks. Like, yeah, we weren't talking about drafting him, and then bam, it's 3 weeks to draft time, and now the buzz is Jalen Carter. So it's like, yeah, you could. My whole thing this whole time has been like, Pete and John are playing this whole mind game where they're taking selfies with the quarterbacks, but really their crosshairs are on Jalen Carter, and they're just trying to not say anything about him. But now it's like, well, now we're close enough to the draft. We have to fly. We have to talk to him. Yeah. And so it's like, okay.
I do think
your cards have been,
if it plays out to where, like, let's say Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, and Jalen Carter are all gone by the time we pick at 5, I really wouldn't rule out us taking Richardson there. Like, if Carter and Anderson are gone.
Yeah. I hope that happens.
I think if we take Tyree Wilson, that is one of the only things we could do that would just have me like utterly deflated. Not because I think Tyree Wilson is gonna be a good player, but at like pick 10, like, this guy is not a top 5 in an NFL draft type of talent, frankly. So that's just my quick aside about him. I don't think he's a bad player. But moving on to number 6, I had the Lions taking Anthony Richardson, and I'm not the only one who thinks this may have a possibility to happen. Because I think this is a situation that would be really good for Richardson because he's going to go to a good team that already has a lot of weapons, and he can sit behind Goff for at least a year. You know, that bridge situation that I was just talking about with him. And it would also just be like, think about it. There's never been a time where the Lions have had a like uber athletic, like crazy, huge, exciting quarterback with a missile arm. I mean, Stafford had a good arm, but he's not.
He was never like, he always kind of looked a little like he had some cushion on him.
A pudgy boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had a fucked up arm though back in the day.
Oh yeah.
For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, no, that would be, I would be super excited for the Lions. I, however, have the Lions addressing their needs on defense, specifically their secondary after getting rid of Okuda. And they're taking Christian Gonzalez at number 6.
I could see that.
And I actually have I have a fun pick I made later on for the Lions. We'll get into that when we get there, but I think the Lions are going to be addressing a lot of defensive needs in this draft in particular because their offense is crazy. Their offense is already good. Granted, they lost Chark. He was a pretty underrated player on their team. I only know that because I had him on my fantasy team, and every time I like had to start him, he went off. So I was like, oh, okay. Well,
their passing offense was legit last year.
Yeah. Jared Goff. I mean, I was questioning like CJ Stroud, Jared Goff comparisons, but like looking at Jared Goff's numbers, I'm like, oh, he's not the moron he was in LA.
Yeah, he's grown up a lot as a quarterback, I think. He's actually one of the better in the NFC right now, I would say.
I would agree with that. And then, so moving on from Detroit, I got the Raiders. This was purely just going off of team need because the Raiders need so many things. But I went offensive tackle Paris Johnson. They need offensive line help. There you go. You get arguably the best tackle in the draft.
Yeah, I believe. I had them going quarterback and Will Levis.
Okay.
I could see them passing on a quarterback this year, but I just feel like, Jimmy G is like obviously a stopgap. And again, like Levis, even though he's older, he's another guy that would benefit from just sitting for a year. I don't love Levis as a prospect, but I do acknowledge, like, I get why this guy is going to be likely an early first round pick in the NFL.
Yeah.
I can see that. And then I think, number 8, the Falcons, I had a pick here that I don't think I've seen this one around a lot, but the thing is, I
like that pick.
They got what's his name, Ritter, last year, and he didn't look hopeless out there in his rookie season. He looked a lot better than Malik Willis at the least.
Yeah.
I think, let's give Ritter a chance, a prove it year. You spent a 3rd round pick on him. Let's see what he can do. He's a very mature kid. He's got some good athleticism, decent arm. You already have the huge freak tight end in Pitts. You just spent a 1st round pick last year on the guy from USC. What's his name?
Drake London.
Yeah, Drake London. Let's just make that offense even more dangerous like they were back in the day.
They kind of are just copying, pasting their blueprints for 2007.
Yeah.
They're like Roddy White, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, Tony Gonzalez.
Yes, there you go.
And now they're like...
I think that's part of why I did this too, but I had him taking Jackson Smith and Jigba here.
I could see them doing that again, though. They already kind of are. They already did it last year, and that was kind of why I took them to take Drake London, and they did. So I think you're onto something here.
And I think if they did this, they would really have one of the like scarier pass catching trios in the league. Just if you're just purely going off of like potential and talent. I know none of these guys have really proven that they're an elite NFL player yet, but I think a lot of that has been, Marcus Mariota throwing ducks and like rolling on the ground and throwing interceptions. So they're not dealing with that anymore. And who knows what they have in Ritter, but I think there might be something in Ritter. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 10 kind of guy, but there might be something.
I would agree with that take. For me, I have the Falcons taking edge Tyree Wilson.
I can see that as well.
I just think the Falcons. When was the last time they had a good defense? Like they didn't even really have a good
2016,
defense.
It was decent.
Barely. And that was when they went to the Super Bowl. So I mean, I I have them drafting a defensive guy. Last year at 8, they went offense. This year, different story. And then it was also a team need, I believe, for the Falcons. And then number 9, this was my first pick where I was like, let's get interesting here. Bijan going to the Bears.
Oh,
yep. Bijan
top
is
10 running back selection. I love it.
So Bijan is going to be going to Chicago, and he's going to be a new offensive weapon to help out Justin Fields. Little sad boy Justin Fields may have just peeked a smile on his face a little bit. What are we thinking there? Justin Fields, he's going to have another weapon to throw to, dump the ball off, and to go along with DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, and Darnell Mooney.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm kind of like
Cole Kmet's not a bad tight end.
Cole Kmet. I forgot about him. I tried to trade for him because I kind of like Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
I didn't get him, but
I think he's had a little bit of injury history, but beyond that, like, he's a really talented tight end.
he's pretty young though. Like
I think he's only like 24 or something like that.
But
Younger
I
guy.
do like. I mean, the Bears play in that cold weather up there. The
read option.
their track record when they have a good running back, they're kind of a scary team. Remember when Matt Forte was?
Oh yeah.
Was
Him
like
and Cutler.
but
I just think about how hard the read option is going to be to defend with Bijan and Justin Fields.
Like, good.
And they have
luck.
what's his name? Didn't they get another running back? I don't remember his name. They signed someone in free agency. That's like solid.
Foreman from the Panthers.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I actually I haven't really thought about that one too much, but that would be. The Bears would be immediately pretty formidable. They already had a decent offense last year.
If I'm the GM for Chicago, I'm drafting him for the reason of we haven't had a good offense in 10 years. Like, the Bears need a spark
and
in their organization.
They have a ton of other draft picks in this draft too.
They wasted made one of the worst decisions ever in drafting Mitchell Trubisky over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. So it's like,
I always forget about that.
the Bears, they need this pick. They need to, reach pick, but they need this pick. They're going
I don't even
Bijan
think it's a
number 9.
reach. I think Bijan.
I'm only saying that because it's
Positional.
running back at in the top 10. That's
I'm
the
just
only
saying
reason
I'm on your
it.
side here. I think Bijan is fucking special. Like, you could have the next LT here.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's that good. I had the Bears a little more boring of a pick. I had him taking Peter Skoronski, tackle, could play guard potentially. I just think Fields just needs some help, you know, and part of that help is building up that offensive line. So pretty simple. Didn't put a whole bunch of thought into this one. I thought about getting them in Jigba, but I just thought let's build up the trenches here. And then with pick 10, I had Tyree Wilson going to the Eagles.
Makes sense.
This is probably about as low as you'll see Tyree Wilson go, but man, the Eagles lost a little bit of help on the defensive line in this offseason, and I just think this would help put some juice back into it and just give them another weapon back there.
Yeah, so I also went edge rusher for Philly, except mine is the guy coming out of Clemson, Miles Murphy.
Oh, okay.
And this was he was the best available edge rusher left. Eagles let a lot of their defensive front walk.
Oh, wait, sorry. Go ahead. I was thinking of the wrong team.
Okay. And I just think the Eagles are going to reinstill beefing up that defense because that's what got them there.
Yeah, I really just think that that's what they're going to do. I don't know exactly who it's going to be, but I would bet that with one of their first round picks, at least they're taking defensive linemen.
Yeah. And then my next pick, I went kind of boring as well. Trench pick, Broderick Jones, offensive tackle, Georgia. We're
going to get some offensive linemen listening to us just pissed at us for disrespecting them, saying they're boring.
I was stoked with the Charles Cross pick. Well, Yeah, I was happy with it after
Eventually,
the fact. I was mad I was in a weird state of mind that entire draft. But anyway, I got the Titans going offensive tackle here. Look, honestly, I think they just need to rebuild, and
I think they should blow it up. Derrick Henry's going to break soon. Tannehill is Tannehill.
Their championship window, believe it or not, was the year they went 9-7 and almost snuck their way into the Super Bowl.
I agree. I think that was the best version of these Titans teams that we've watched the last 4 years.
They were just, they kind of played with a chip on their shoulder. They had a lot of losses, but they were a scary team to face because they just would run Derrick Henry down your throat. And I mean, Marshawn said it best, like, you don't want to hit someone that's just coming at you over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So
yeah, I mean, we watched that work to fucking majesty with Lynch and Wilson back in the day, and we watched Derrick Henry run all over us in 2021 in a horrible loss, where we just couldn't physically stop the guy.
Yeah,
it's one thing when you can game plan to defeat a team, but when you physically just cannot stop them. What do you do?
you can't do anything. But I'm you're up next at.
So number 11 at the Titans, I had them taking Quentin Johnston. I don't know. I just kind of feel like they're very they're in dire need of weapons. I mean, they drafted Treylon Burks. Honestly, I don't even know who else they have on receivers beyond that.
I don't either. That's why
I picked him.
That's a good choice.
Because I think in their offense, Treylon Burks will be the wide receiver 1. Because I think Quentin Johnston can be a really good wide receiver 2, kind of like a Mike Williams to a what's his name, Evans or not Evans?
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good place for him to end up, just kind of play like Robin to someone's Batman. And that could help, make them at least a little more interesting. And then number 12, this is probably a lot lower than he'll end up going. But Christian Gonzalez to the Texans here. If he falls this far and the Texans get a chance to get him and Will Anderson, that'd be pretty crazy. Because you pair him with Derek Stingley and you have Will Anderson playing edge, outside linebacker, all of a sudden that Texans defense, it's a little more formidable,
Yeah. It's definitely, they're either gonna go quarterback or they're gonna bolster up that defense. And, I mean, you went with the latter on that one, which I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that's the path they went down. For me, Texans at number 12, I went JSN. I think they're going to be in dire need of a receiver. And
that's kind of interesting. So you have Bryce Young throwing to CJ's old receiver.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
And so, they're going to need to give Bryce a weapon right off the get-go. And it's going to be the best receiver in the draft. And then at number 13, we've got 13 for the Jets again. I made this pick with the intention of trading for Rodgers in the second round as the Jets. So I took an offensive tackle. I went Peter Skoronski.
Okay.
And that's just, he was the best tackle available, probably of remaining tackles to be taken in the first round. So I took him for the Jets, and he will help protect Aaron Rodgers.
If they can ever fucking get this trade going.
That's why I know. That's why I'm going to make the trade happen during my mock draft.
Yeah. So I completely agree with your analysis there, because I also have them taking a tackle. I have them taking Paris Johnson Jr. Kind of this same situation. The way the board played out for me, he was the best available tackle.
Yeah.
They just, they're pretty solid in a lot of positions, especially assuming Breece Hall comes back to full health. So I feel like bolstering that offensive line just makes sense. Defense is already good and it's already pretty young. So yeah. And then at 14, the Patriots, I kind of had to think about this one for a while. I almost thought about taking Zay Flowers here at 14. Because, dude, the Patriots need some weapons in a bad way for sure.
Yep.
But I had them taking Lucas Van Ness. Something about this guy just screams Patriot to me. I don't know why. Patriot or Steeler?
That's funny. I almost took him with the Steelers, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, he's one of these guys that's a little harder to judge because Iowa's weird and they really like play people based on their like seniority more so than their talent. So he rotated in a lot, but he was just a monster when he did. He kind of reminds me of like TJ Watt a little bit. So yeah, I think, you know, Bill Belichick's still a defensive minded guy. So I figure he might go after one of the top edge rushers left here.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense. I went your former thought, and I had them taking Quentin Johnston at 14. Just because he's the biggest receiver in the draft, and I think, you know, I know they got TikTok boy.
I forgot they got him.
Juju, but yeah, I just think, you know, enough's enough. Time to let Mac cook. So, of course, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, so we had to do a little camera angle change. But that being said, we'll just kind of move on here, and I need to get my headphones on. I forgot about that.
Yeah, jumping back into the Packers pick here at 15.
Yes. So after the Patriots made their wide receiver selection, the Packers are going to make their wide receiver selection, and I have them taking USC receiver Jordan Addison to go along with the big man Christian Watson, Mr. Touchdown Machine. Give Jordan Love another little weapon to throw to. Little FU to Aaron Rodgers as he's on his way out the door. They finally draft that receiver, but just in time for Aaron Rodgers to leave and go to New York.
I love it. Yeah, I could totally see them doing that for sure. I have them doing the same concept, but with a tight end in Dalton Kincaid out of Utah.
Yeah, that's a good.
I think he can be their Zach Ertz, essentially. You know, it's funny, when I watched Dalton's tape, I was like, why do I keep thinking of Zach Ertz watching him? And that's like NFL.com's comparison, and like a bunch of other people thought the same thing. So it's weird. Like you watch enough football, and like sometimes you just watch someone and it instantly reminds you of another player. That's been really, I mean, Zach Ertz has had a phenomenal career. And it's similar in the way that like this guy is going to be much more of a pure receiving threat. I mean, he can block, but like it's like kind of a Jimmy Graham thing. Like you want him to be blocking less than a guy like a Gronk or like Darnell Washington, if someone were to take him.
Right.
And then speaking of Darnells, I have the Washington Commanders. This one was kind of tough for me. I had them taking Darnell Wright with the idea in mind that he would move inside to guard, because that was one of their main needs, and he was the best like offensive lineman available. I kind of lose my footing when I talk about offensive linemen, to be honest, because like I didn't play the position. I don't really know shit technically about. Yeah. All I know is like, you know, centers are normally smaller and tackles are huge, but there's some flexibility there.
Yeah, I mean, I went a little different with the Commanders pick. This is where I finally had Devin Witherspoon being drafted.
Oh, I forgot.
He fell all the way down to the Commanders. I looked at their cornerbacks before I made this pick, and I didn't recognize any of their names. So I was like, all right, you're taking a cornerback.
Yeah. I forgot you hadn't taken him into this point, but yeah, I mean, they would have to be stoked if he fell all the way to him at 50.
And, you know, I almost took him at 13 for the Jets to add another piece with Sauce and DJ Reed. But I just, I don't know. I think the Jets are fine on defense. I think they've been fine for years on defense.
Yeah.
My whole life of watching football, they've had a good defense, but they've always had a bad offense. So,
and quarterback.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, it's time to change that narrative.
Their best quarterback, I mean, besides Geno Smith in the last 10 years, is Fitzmagic.
Yeah.
Like kind of easily too.
So yeah, we have the Commanders going Devin Witherspoon, and then This was kind of a fun pick. I have the Steelers taking Joey Porter Jr. And I did this because I could totally see the Rooney family, or I don't even know if they're alive still anymore, or whoever is, obviously it's their family, but
yeah,
who's ever in
trust.
the ownership or owner's seat of that franchise, I could totally see them being like, let's get the next generation Porter. And that's what being a Steelers, like I could just being a Steelers all about tradition.
Yeah.
I could see them taking him, and they need a cornerback. Like,
it just makes a lot of sense, and
Yeah.
it makes so much sense that I did the same thing. So I also have them taking.
I
Joey
saw that.
Porter Jr.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. It's like you almost feel like it has to happen, and it'll almost be disappointing if it doesn't, because what a cool opportunity to draft the son of a Steelers legend. You know,
that if I was a Steelers fan, I would hope that they would do that. Like if I was,
because he's a good player too.
Yeah,
Like,
and
it's not just a nepotism thing. He's actually a really good player.
well, like I think about like Marvin Harrison Jr. Like when he enters the draft, if I'm a Colts fan, I'm like, I hope we draft him. That would be awesome.
He's probably gonna be a top 5 pick next year, I bet.
Yeah. But yeah, so I have the Steelers taking Porter. You obviously do as well. Who'd you nab at 18?
I had the Lions just continuing to bolster their D line here, taking Kalijah Cansey out of Pittsburgh. This guy's a disruptive pass rusher, and having him and Aiden Hutchinson on the same line on third down, like that's going to be tough to stop. And I had them kind of taking a swing at the fences with Richardson at 6 overall, but the way I see it with them, like I saw that there was an opportunity here to like keep hitting that defense and also get their QB of the future. And like you can make an argument that we should do something similar.
We parallel a lot of the Lions' tendencies within the past couple seasons. I've noticed been a lot of comparisons with, maybe we're a little bit further along than we thought we were on offense, and they're not as far as they thought they were on defense, sort of a thing. So, and then you get their great offense and our defense that isn't, amazing. But well, granted, it's not good. But we are
Jalen Carter's
we are going to add and have added all of these pieces to get back to form. Of previous Seahawks teams.
Who'd you have the Lions taken?
So, blockbuster trade alert.
Ooh.
I had the Lions trading this pick to the Cardinals for Budda Baker and the 180th pick in the draft.
That's interesting.
Budda Baker, 27 years old. He's in his prime. He is going to be an addition to that secondary along with Christian Gonzalez. And I don't know. That pick seemed
expendable, kind of.
Yes. The Lions, I just feel like the voice of Budda Baker in that locker room is like perfect for that defense.
That would make them kind of scary to have, because Gonzalez is a playmaker and so is Budda Baker. Like when we play them next year, it's not going to be 48-45 again.
No. And just something about the Cardinals, again, they need to bolster up they need to rebuild, essentially. Well, on one side of the ball.
It depends on how much you believe in Murray, I guess.
Yeah, and Kyler Murray he's a talented player, but I don't know. That's kind of why I had Arizona going defensive side of the ball on both pick 3 and pick 18. I have them drafting Brian Breesy, tackle out of Clemson.
Okay.
Again, I kind of just made that pick with the intention of, all right, well, you want to build trenches and then work your way back on defense. And
that would
that's
actually kind of suck for us to have to play against Will Anderson and Brian Breesy.
Yeah, and so I was just trying to go unbiased here, give them the best pick that they would have the opportunity at getting. And then at number 19, I have the Bucks taking Will Levis out of Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Will Levis would fall past the Bucks at 19. If he does, because I think if any of the top 4 quarterbacks, he's most likely the one that's going to take a fall.
I agree. I was looking at every other team after the Bucks, and I was like, well, maybe the Vikings. I've seen that in a couple mocks, but I don't see any teams that need a quarterback besides those two that are left at 19.
You're getting into like the playoff teams at that point, basically.
Right.
So it makes sense. So I at 19 had the Bucs taking Brian Branch, top safety prospect out of Alabama, simply because it's a need for them, and he's a damn good player. There's really not a whole lot more that went into than that. Bucs are in a weird situation post Tom Brady where they're a little cap strapped and just kind of in a little bit of like purgatory right now till they find their path forward. So Will Levis definitely makes sense there too. Just in my draft, he was gone a long time ago. Then at number 20, our second pick, this is again something I really hope that happens, and I think this one is a lot less likely to happen. But I have the Seahawks taking Zay Flowers here at 20. I think Zay Flowers, he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's about 5'10", 5'11", $180 something. But man, he plays so much bigger than that when you watch his film. Like he's kind of like Golden Tate in the sense that he's not a tall guy, but he's a big jump ball winner and contested catch winner, and his route running is just fucked. And I think the Seahawks, oddly enough, are in win now mode right now, and getting this guy right away as our wide receiver 3 with Lockett and Metcalf is going to make the offense so much more dangerous. And he's kind of potentially Lockett replacement 3 years down the line.
I do really like this pick. I would be so stoked if we got Zay Flowers. One of the reasons is because I actually heard, again, Steve Smith talk about Zay Flowers and reporting on the fact that he saw himself and more in Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Steve Smith was one of like the most hot-headed, scariest guys on the field all the time.
I feel like him and Doug Baldwin were kind of similar players.
Yeah, if Steve Smith just kind of scared me watching football growing up, and like
he won some of those fights he would get in on the field.
If he's saying Zay Flowers is anything in that realm, then yeah, let's get him, because the best Seahawks teams are the teams that have the bad boys on them and the guys that are, not going to care if they put themselves and their well-being on the line for their brothers. You know what I mean?
And I think, adding him to the mix with Lockett and Metcalf, that might be the best 3 receiver set the Seahawks have ever had. Maybe that sounds like exaggeration, but I don't really think it is.
No, because I was never satisfied with Jermaine Kearse's performances.
No.
Like
Baldwin was special.
From a singular season standpoint, like Kearse always had stretches where it's like, where are you? You disappeared.
Yeah, he just could not get separation a lot of times.
Although, like when we had Baldwin, Sidney Rice,
Golden Tate,
that was
that was a really talented trio, but like I feel like they didn't produce at the level that like Metcalf and Lockett already have, and I think Zay can get 800 yards his rookie year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I actually I had fun with this one, so I actually
Did you make a trade?
I traded this pick away to the Commanders. I traded this. Noah Fant and next year's 3rd for Chase Young.
Okay.
No idea if that is like a reason. I don't know how.
I think if anything, that's skewed in the Commanders' favor. Like I feel like we maybe wouldn't throw in the 3rd next year for that.
I had to. I didn't think I should have, but the fucking simulator wouldn't do it if I didn't do that trade. So I did it. And
he's a more talented player than any other defensive lineman that's left at this point. So if you're thinking about like, okay, he's our 20th pick, it makes sense. Plus, I don't really feel like we need Noah Fant, to be honest.
We don't. And I made that trade with the intention of maybe drafting a tight end later, because this is a tight end heavy,
this is like
class.
A really good tight end class. Yeah,
so that was kind of my intention with making that decision. And if we had Jalen Carter and Chase Young to our defensive line, we now have Uchenna, one of the best defensive lines in the NFC West, if not the NFC.
Yeah.
So
yeah, We still got
And we
that
have
nose
Draymond
tackle
Jones.
to fill. Yes.
So it's like now we have an amazing defensive line with those two additions. And then, so we get Chase Young, and then the Commanders once again add another guy to their secondary, Cam Smith. So I have them taking 2 top corners. And I
just see it. They need them real bad.
And again, this was mainly due to I was like, who is on the Commanders defense besides Chase Young? Like, I don't know any Commanders players. And I didn't know anyone in their secondary, of course. So that's why I went with another corner. I know it's a little bit of a stretch going 2 corners for one team in the first round, but could really make a difference.
It's a premium position. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's like weird process, actually. It's unusual, but I mean, I wouldn't hate it if I was a Commanders fan, especially because Chase Young hasn't really panned out for them to this point, and it's largely due to injury. But anywho, moving on to the Chargers at 21, I have them taking Deonte Banks, cornerback. I just saw that was a need for them. I feel like if Zay Flowers gets past us, there's a decent chance he's taken by the Chargers. But they need a cornerback in a bad way. I think J.C. Jackson is on their team, but he didn't really play that great last year. But maybe they get him to rebound. They have Deonte Banks on the other side and help Herbert get his career record over 500, hopefully. And then
Good luck with that one.
Moving on to the Ravens. So I know they just signed OBJ, but frankly, I don't get the fucking OBJ hype at this point in his career. He hasn't put up 1,000 yards since like 2018 or something like that. He's coming off 2 ACL tears. He's like 31. Like, sure, he might be productive this year, but he hasn't played football since the Super Bowl in 2022, the beginning of the year. So I have them taking Jordan Addison here. Hopefully giving Lamar another weapon makes him sign his fucking contract and just, oh, poor boohoo, you guy, you have to sign a $200 million guaranteed contract. Like, I'm sorry, I don't fucking feel sorry for you. Like,
Also, what are you doing, Lamar Jackson? Why are you like recruiting a bunch of old receivers to get paid when you want to get paid? Like, none of it makes sense.
I just think it's fucking ridiculous because like unless they're actually offering him something like insulting, like if you're getting over like $180 million guaranteed, what human being is like, no to that? Like, just at what point are we just getting dumb here about these quarterback contracts? Like, how much fucking money does one person need? Anyways, that aside, who'd you have the Ravens and Chargers taken?
Well, yeah, so I realized I should have made my Chargers pick but didn't. So I had them drafting Lucas Van Ness to go alongside with Mr. Joey Slow Talking Deep Voice Bosa. But yeah, I have them getting another edge rusher because their defense was extremely disappointing last year. I thought it was going to be one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
Arguably put them in the Super Bowl conversation, but
we had their way with them.
The Chargers charged it and they sucked. So they need to improve that defense. Clearly Khalil Mack and his addition to the team didn't really make that big of an impact as far as winning them games and being a difference maker on that side of the ball.
It happens a lot when you sign aging veterans like that.
Yeah. And then at 22, I actually had the Ravens. I had them taking a corner. I saw them taking corners in a lot of mocks. Keely Ringo, specifically out of Georgia, is who I had the Ravens taking. And this was just, again, kept seeing mocks of them taking corners. It was a draft need, so I just went with who I thought, corner out of Georgia made sense to me.
Yeah, why don't you just go ahead and do the next
And the Vikings, yeah. So for 23rd pick, I went Brian Branch, safety for the Vikings. I made that pick with the thought in mind that, Harrison Smith, he's got to be getting older.
He's been in the league for more than 10 years now, right?
Yeah. I went, and that was also a draft need for them. And
it makes sense.
Branch probably should have gone higher than that. So I see the Vikings being pretty excited with that pick, especially because their defense let them down last year.
Yeah, it did. I mean, you lost to fucking Daniel Jones and made him look like you basically are the reason why he got paid $40 million a year.
Yeah. So good job.
Yeah. There's like nothing more that needs to be said beyond that.
Yeah. So who you got the Vikings grabbing?
I had them taking Brian Brees out of Clemson. This guy was the number one recruit in the nation coming out of high school. He's a talented player. Off the field, tragic things have prevented him from being super productive. But, I think if he falls this far, he could really, really be a good pickup for them and just, again, help out with their defense so they don't lose to fucking Daniel Jones again. Then for the Jaguars, they had kind of a sneaky good defense last year. I know Trayvon Walker didn't make a ton of noise, but, he's always been kind of seen as like, even for a guy that was taken number 1 overall, like a little bit of a project. So hopefully he takes a leap in year 2. But pairing him with this super, super talented edge rusher, Nolan Smith, ran a 4.39 as a pass rusher. That's rare.
I know his knock is he's not very big. That's his only.
He's a little bit less than 240 pounds, so he's not much bigger than DK Metcalf, but he was pretty dang productive in school, and actually for his size, he was a pretty good run defender. So I mean, I feel like worst case scenario with this guy, you put him on the field like he's Darrell Taylor on 3rd and long, and just let him run by the tackle and get a sack. I mean, that's kind of Darrell Taylor's a little bit of a one-trick pony, but he's really good at that. And I think worst case scenario, that's what you have here, Nolan Smith. Best case scenario, he's a guy I thought about taking for the Seahawks at 20, because I think he could really, really be something special.
There was a mock where I ended up nabbing him in, I think, the 2nd round.
Oh, really?
Seahawks. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he
I don't think
that.
That's going to happen.
That's the thing. Like, you look at our 2 drafts here, and there's some players you have going in the first that I don't, and vice versa. Like, there's not a... Compared to a lot of years, there's not a huge consensus on who's a 1st-round pick, who's an early 2nd-round pick.
Exactly.
So who do you have the Jaguars take?
I have them also taking a corner. So it's been a pick of the secondaries the past couple picks, but Deontay Banks, corner out of Maryland.
I had him going a little bit ago, but yeah.
Yeah, I just, again, I kind of noticed the Jags defense really coming on at the end of last year, and I actually had them upsetting the Chiefs in the playoffs, which they almost did. They almost did.
It was close.
And I don't know, I look at that Jags team. I've always been a big fan of Doug Peterson. I really wanted us to hire him as our OC 2 years ago, but I'm happy with Shane Waldron and what he's done for us this past year. But Deontay Banks, another corner to bolster up that Jag defense. I think they're doing just fine as far as their offensive weapons go, believe it or not, even though I was like, why are they overpaying all these mid receivers? But
then they kind of did good.
Then they did good, and Evan Ingram went off. So you know what? Just keep doing what you're doing. And then at 25... I just am so not a believer in Daniel Jones still. I mean, I don't care that he made his money. I have them taking the dog in Zay Flowers.
Oh, okay.
Another weapon, go alongside Darren Waller and Wan'Dale Robinson.
That would, like, I feel like he's not falling further. Some people say he's going to be a 2nd-round pick. I don't think so. I think
disagree. He's like in the mid to late 30s projection-wise as far as picks go. Nah, I don't even know if I really have him falling this low because I could see us taking him. But if he's there at 25, the Giants need receivers. Because Kenny Golladay was not the answer.
Yeah, boy, was he not. I had the Giants taking Broderick Jones, tackle you had going a bit earlier out of Georgia. I just think, it's offensive line is a need for them, and helping Daniel Jones out in another way besides just a weapon here was sort of my thought.
Right.
Hopefully they can figure out the Saquon situation because he hasn't signed his franchise tag and is apparently refusing to without getting a new contract. Which, see, the thing is, like, I get it from his standpoint because, one hit, your career's over at running back. But look at how that worked out for Le'Veon Bell. Like, it's
Yeah.
If he drags it into the season, I'm just like, dude, you're missing paychecks that like you don't get back as a running back. So quick aside on that. Moving on, I had the Cowboys. Looking back, I feel like he's going to go earlier than this, but I had the Cowboys getting Bijan Robinson.
That seems like a very Cowboys move.
Yeah, and man, he would be a superstar there. He'd make Dak look a lot better. I promise you that.
Well, Zeke did. Zeke already did that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this guy is a much better player than Zeke. I mean, Zeke was great to start off his career, but I think Bijan's ceiling is much higher than Zeke's was, personally.
I think Zeke already had a lot of miles on his legs in college.
Yeah.
And then coming out into the NFL. So, yeah, I like that pick. I think RG3 actually was the first guy I heard predict the Cowboys to take Bijan, which, yeah, I mean, after hearing that, I was like, yeah, that's definitely
I could
definitely
kind of
possible.
see the Cowboys as a potential trade partner from 20 to 26. Maybe we get a second round pick next year or a third this year or something for that trade, and they can get Bijan at 20, and then we just take like, I don't know, like a DeJuan Jones at 26 or something.
Yeah.
I've thought about that possibility too, but
It wouldn't be that bad. I would actually be kind of stoked if we did that. But yeah, so at 26, I have the Cowboys getting their next generational talent at tight end, Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame.
you know, to me, Jason Witten is the comp for Michael Mayer, so that kind of makes a lot of sense.
That's funny you say that, because I actually did watch some Michael Mayer. I was watching Michael Mayer and Kincaid because they're kind of the same build, I guess. They're white
like
tight ends that go out and catch the ball.
Yeah,
it's kind of the same style.
I think Mayer's
of a player.
little thicker than Kincaid, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so I had Dalton Kincaid going there. The pick just made sense to me. Like you said, reminded me of a Jason Witten looking player. And then at 27, I actually...
Wait, did you have the Cowboys taking Kincaid or Mayer?
Michael Mayer.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you had Kincaid going early, didn't you?
Yeah, I had him going to the Packers.
Right. And at 27, I had Trenton Simpson, linebacker out of Clemson, going to the Bills. And the reason for this pick is because, remember...
They lost that guy to the Bears, their linebacker that they used to have in free agency this year. I don't remember his name, but he was really good. And he went to the Bears.
I honestly didn't make this pick with that in mind, but that's good to know. I thought about the Bengals playoff game when Joe Mixon just ran all over them and did whatever he wanted. And the player notes on this linebacker, apparently he's all over the field everywhere all at once. So
he's someone I hope we can get with our first second round pick, potentially, if he's there.
Yeah, so I have him going to the Bills.
Nice. I had the Bills taking Emmanuel Forbes, top corner available on this big board I was looking at. So I just saw I was in need for them, and anything with the Bills, I'm thinking defense. You could maybe think about them making a play for Bijan, but I feel like the way their offense works, running backs just never really get that many carries for whatever reason. I could see them maybe going after a receiver too, but I just had them going defense because that's a big reason why they haven't advanced in the playoffs the last few years. And then next pick, the Bengals at 28, I believe. I had them taking Michael Mayer here because I feel like this is probably as far as he'll fall. And also, it's a need for the Bengals, and it just makes sense, and like, think about that dynamic of having this, plug and play potential Pro Bowler tight end with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and Joey B slinging the rock to him. I mean, it'd be fun. And he also is a decent pass blocker, so he can help out with that angle as well.
I like that pick. I think I almost made that, or maybe I did make that pick in like a random first round draft I was doing, because I think the Bengals are going to take a tight end. That's why they didn't re-sign Hayden Hurst.
Yeah.
And I actually have them taking Darnell Washington.
Oh, okay.
Reason being for this, he's such a different type of pass catcher than what the Bengals already have. They have speedy quick Jamar Chase. They have big-bodied T. Higgins, but if you throw in a big target like Darnell Washington in there, like hello, that's going to make the Bengals impossible to defend.
Yeah, this guy, when he steps on the field, he's going to be one of the biggest players on either team.
And for pass blocking purposes, he can help their fucking quarterback who's already torn his ACL once because you can't get the guy protection. So it's like, yeah, bring in Darnell Washington. He can pass block. He can run block. He can go out, catch a pass, or just be a decoy so you can get Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, or Jamar Chase wide open. So I really think that Darnell Washington pick would be perfect for the Bengals.
I like it. And also just, if you think like in the red zone, if you split him out wide against like a linebacker that's
Good
like
luck.
6 foot tall, how is he going to defend a fade route? Like besides just trying the PI and getting away with it.
Yeah, you're pretty much not going to have success there. And then at 29, I have the Saints taking Dalton Kincaid.
Okay, so it's a real run on tight ends here on your.
Yeah, it pretty much went corner for a while and then tight end for a while. So yeah, Saints, another offensive need, tight end.
That's going to give Derek Carr a lot of help.
Yeah. I forgot he was going there. Ooh, your pick. I actually kind of hope the Seahawks draft this guy at some point.
Oh,
like
Cyrus Torrance?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just kind of the consensus number one guard in this class.
Mm-hmm.
And the Saints need help on the interior O-line. So I was like, this makes sense.
Well, one of the player notes I read on Osiris Torrance is the game where they played Georgia. He was like whooping Jalen Carter the whole game. So, and have you seen his measurables?
He's a big dude.
Huge.
He's a big dude.
So that would be
him and Damian Lewis. That'd be a pretty beefy O-line.
Yeah.
And then Evan Brown at center, like that's a good stopgap at the least. That's a position I will be targeting later in the draft. As you'll see.
Sorry. Anyway, your pick, Saints, Osiris Torrance.
Yeah. No, I mean it's all good. And then the next pick. So the Saints one was pretty straightforward. It was a need. Top guys right there. You take them. Next pick. If this happens, this would kind of break my heart because this is a player I really want us to get because it's such a big need on our team. Nose tackle, Mozzie Smith going to the Eagles. He's their Ndamukong Suh replacement. I honestly, because it's such a position of need, I wouldn't hate us drafting him at 20. It'd be kind of overdrafted him, but this guy is the top dog in as far as like the big, huge man in the middle. So we're like, this guy either is going to play defensive tackle in a 4-3 defense, but really, he's suited to be a 3-4 nose tackle right up on the center. We lost Al Woods. Brian Monet is on injured reserve, so I'm hoping we can get one of the nose tackles in this draft.
Right.
But as I said, this guy's the top dog, and man, the way this draft has played out for me and basically for you too, the Eagles just immediately reload that defensive line and are off and running in 2023.
I kind of had the same thought process as you, except I went edge rusher on this again. I went Isaiah Foskey.
Okay.
Out of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And again, this was just, I think he was the best available edge left on the board. And
he's one of those fringe first round guys. I've seen him go anywhere from late first to early third. But that's kind of how this draft is. Like it's all over the place depending on who you ask.
Yeah. And then my final pick in the first round, I went with the replacement tackle that the Chiefs lost to the Bengals. And I had them drafting Darnell Wright, the tackle out of Tennessee. It's going to be, they just won the Super Bowl. I could see they did this last time they won the Super Bowl, drafting need over best available player. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the last draft. Big mistake.
Yeah.
And now
he was good for a second.
I just post Super Bowl, they went with him because they needed a running back. They were pretty much set everywhere else. I could see them doing the same thing this year. They're great everywhere else. They need a tight end. I mean, a tackle to help protect their $500 million man.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I was thinking more of a Frank Clark replacement here. So I was like, oh shit, this guy is still around. I need to draft him.
Oh,
somewhere.
damn. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had Miles Murphy closing out the first round at 31 there. I kind of, as I got here, I'm like, it's kind of unlikely to happen, but you never know. You never know. And he could immediately just jump in as a rotational guy at the very least and fill that role that Frank Clark was playing and hopefully put an effort in the season, not just in the playoffs like Frank did. So yeah, it just made sense, and that's the first round.
Yeah.
I know this was a long one, but it was fun. I know we had a few technical errors, but it's a work in progress. We'll at least have this one captured so you can see us this time.
I'm really excited to get into the lab and start clipping this bad boy up, and just getting the content out there, because I was really disappointed last week when basically what happened was we filmed this with my shitty camera, and all the files were corrupted, because if you film anything longer than 10 minutes, it just loses all the data for some reason. So we went with a little bit nicer equipment this time around, and I think we're going to prosper from it.
Yeah, and that episode we did last time still kind of did. I don't know, the YouTube algorithm must have picked it up.
80 views.
Yeah, which I know
that's not impressive,
but for us, it's like, I mean, usually we get 8. So that's 10 times our normal viewership. So
yeah, I am excited to see if anything jumps after we post this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where that takes us, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Yeah, last episode that's more than a week out from the draft. So
yes,
we're so close. We might live stream the draft or a little bit of it. I think it'd be really fun.
I have the whole day off. I took the day off from work so I could prepare for the draft mentally and physically, because I want to cook a bunch of food.
Nice. Well, we might see you there. We'll have our rounds 2 and 3 prediction.
Yeah,
probably early next week, and then we'll see you at the draft after that.
Cool.
All right.
Well, this has been JR Takes. We'll catch you on the next one.